Let's talk about higher will. This is spiritual growth part 4 of the series. And yeah, this one is all about higher will. And this is another one of those phrases, topics that it might seem complicated when you first hear it or really woo-woo when you first hear it, but it's actually simpler than you think. So higher will is basically it's like an energy current that brings everything in the direction of spiritual growth. So it's like that, a loving current. You could think of it as like a metaphysical jet stream of loving energy that brings everything towards spiritual growth. And you can choose to flow with this current, this higher will, align with it, or not. It's all free will. And higher will, it's not necessarily like a fixed path. It's more like a state of flow. It's more like being aligned with spiritual growth. If you get that, more of a flow than a fixed path, than a you need to do this. There's no one telling you exactly what to do. It's just this flow of spiritual development that you can get into. And I guess that's the next point. What it feels like and how do you know when you're aligned and flowing with higher will? And it is this feeling of flow, this feeling of ease, this feeling of expansiveness. That's a really big indicator, expansiveness. Expansiveness, flow, ease, joy, peace. And it's a loving and gentle energy. So it's a very loving, gentle flow. And when you feel that, I don't know why I keep doing this. That's kind of what it feels like to me, I guess. And when you're not in alignment with it, when you're not flowing with higher will, then it feels contractive. It feels like you're forcing things. You feel exhausted and drained. So like if you're doing something and you're forcing it, you're going against that higher will, that flow, that current of spiritual growth. If you're going against it, then it's going to be exhausting and draining. And the same amount of effort put into something that's in alignment with it, that's flowing with it, it feels so much easier. Not that you don't have to take action, but it's like doors open up and you're getting in that flow and things are just happening instead of like, oh, I'm pushing so hard and I feel so exhausted and drained and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how you discern when you are in that flow of higher will versus not being in that flow of higher will. And the ways to get into the flow of higher will. One, it's really simple, creating space. So doing a whole lot of nothing, which means like meditation, journaling, taking long walks outside, taking long baths, taking long showers, just sitting in a park, looking at the trees, like that kind of stuff. Anything that creates space where you're not in that busy mode of doing and overthinking and all that stuff. When you're really creating space, that allows you to naturally get into the flow of higher will. It just happens when you're creating space. That's the beautiful thing about it. So create more space, do more nothing, and you naturally get into that. And then also, what really helps is just slowing down. So instead of rushing into action after action, like that kind of mindless busyness that so many of us operate in, and I've done this my whole life pretty much. You just go from one activity to the next kind of mindlessly. It's just this constant busyness. Slow down, and before you take actions, just pause, and you can feel how you're feeling. You can send light to the situation you're about to go into. Like if you're about to walk into work, for example, you can send light to the place that you work. Send light to the people that you work with. Slow down and take a sacred pause. And this really helps you get into that flow because then you recognize what feels like flow. You recognize those feelings of expansiveness, the gentle lovingness. I think I'm making up words here, lovingness. But you know what it is, the joyful expansion, peace, flow, that kind of stuff, ease, grace. It allows you to really feel that when you take those sacred pauses instead of rushing from one thing to another. And then you can also feel when things are out of alignment, like, wow, I'm really forcing right now, or I feel so drained doing this. Is this really the thing that's in alignment with my highest good right now? And it might not be if you're feeling drained and exhausted and like you're forcing things or you're bashing your head against a wall, if you get that kind of feeling. So just slowing down in that way will really, really help you discern and feel out what feels like flowing with higher will and what doesn't. Yeah, I've come such a long way with this, and I still have so much work to do in this area because I've done so much forcing in my life, so much manic action, so much produce, stay busy, be as productive and effective as possible. And it's draining, and you end up going down so many paths that I wouldn't say like fruitless, because you can learn from everything, from every experience. But like things could be so much more enjoyable and easier and in alignment with your highest good and the highest good of all if you just pay attention to that flow. Because it'll save you a lot of that feeling of feeling exhausted, drained, like you're banging your head against the wall. We've all felt that. And just creating more space in your life, taking more sacred pauses, sending light to situations, all that kind of stuff where you slow down and you act, but you act from a place of higher perspective, and you act with patience instead of acting mindlessly and like wanting everything now. So those slight subtle shifts gets you in alignment with higher will. And that's really all there is to it. So a good way to integrate this, and I'm creating a meditation for this too, so check that out. But another way to integrate it is think about and feel into, visualize and feel into times in your life where you were definitely flowing with higher will. It might have been during a retreat or during a vacation or even during normal life or walking in the park. Who knows? It could be anything. It could be something really random too, where you felt that way, where you felt that flow, that joy, that ease, that expansiveness, that it just felt like you were in that flow. I also call it divine flow or higher flow as well, because it really feels like flow. And it's a little different than flow state, like the psychological term flow state, because flow state, it's more short term. It's more like, oh, I'm in the zone playing a sport, or I'm in the zone writing or creating art. It's more short term, at least to me. I'm not sure if technically it is, but to me, flow state is more short term. And this flow of higher will, it's more long term. It's more of a state of being or a way of living. So that's how I would discern between those two. So yeah, just recollect and visualize and feel times where you were in that higher flow. You might have been experiencing like synchronicities, or everything felt like it was just happening. Like happening for you, happening through you. And it was like a stream of mini miracles. So that really, those things characterize being in flow with higher will. So yeah, think about that, and that'll help you get into it more often. Like, what was I doing? How did it feel? So yeah, that'll help you anchor, lock, and seal it into your being. And I'm going to put out a meditation for this too, and that will help you get into it more. It'll help me get into it more. It'll help everyone get into it more. I love doing these guided meditations too. I love talking about this. So I hope you found value in this video. And really, that's it. I'm sending you so much love, so many blessings, really all of that. I see you. I love you. Keep being a beautiful light in this world. Peace.